I want to talk a little bit about one aspect of science. I have made some audios before about science and what I think about it in general, more about scientists in general and the scientific mindsets, which, as I meant, I don't have much appreciation for anymore because science is not really what it used to be and what it should be legitimately, as it is quite corrupt in different ways now. One side of it is, of course, that there is an agenda put in place by some leaders of the world, and they want, demand, bribe, or force the science and the research to go in certain directions and towards some specific results, which of course is the opposite of what true science is about. And also, on the other hand, the mentality or the mindset of many scientists, which follows the trend of the world, which is more and more ego-based, and unfortunately the idea of the fact that scientists know so much, or science has discovered so much or so much lately. At the end of the day, it's still the same, just because of the way it works with history. We have good memory of the recent past, and as such we think that there are many things that science have discovered or improved on, but over time, as if you look at the different scale, with centuries passed by, usually you can retain only one or two major breakthrough important scientific discoveries at a time during that century or that century. But again, it's all different nowadays. And also, as such, with that big ego, we have many scientists who don't have the best intentions in mind, of course, also because that's part of their psychology, and then they find the people who will support that, or the leaders who want to support the direction that they are taken. I won't mention COVID there, but you can figure the main scientist behind COVID research, what kind of mindset he has. But basically, again, as some scientists have thought that we have reached the kind of the source of life with genetics, then it's exactly like they feel like they are playing gods, because they are playing with the source of life, and they can in vitro artificially create life in different ways with the cloning and the genetic manipulation, artificial insemination, and we see what's happening nowadays. But all this, of course, goes against nature. So again, that's another side or part of why the world is going the way it is. As long as you go against nature and the nature's laws and rules, you only create degenerate beings and consequences anyway. It's not going in the right direction, as we can see anyway nowadays. Not only with humans, but many beings and plants and nature in general, the environment. Everything is quite affected negatively rather than positively, in the organic world at least. And my point is that I keep seeing, of course, many new articles in many different scientific publications or websites, whatever. But it's back to still that same thing as, well, this new discovery could totally change what we have always thought about this or that, or this breakthrough could rewrite genetics textbooks. Basically, in so many ways, science still speaks like they think they understand quite well, and they know, and they actually use, as much as many pretend to be okay scientists as far as science is about an evolving thing, and we never know for sure something, or like it's gonna constantly change and evolve, but they still many times speak with affirmations, like they think they're 100% sure of what they have so-called discovered or seen or measured. And as I mentioned before, unfortunately, that's the problem with the whole thing now. First of all, they are still regular humans, no matter how many PhDs, whatever they have, and diplomas and scientific knowledge. So they're still using pretty much a quarter of the brain capacities, exactly as being limited by that ego that thinks it knows. So they still keep knowing and searching in kind of that one direction, one dimension. And again, that's why we have only a couple of geniuses per centuries, as far as the people who have the open-mindedness, the karma, to be able to conceive and see things in a different way, different concepts than the regular way. And it is very known that, if you're a scientist, a researcher who tries to break through what has been admitted as really absolute truth in the scientific world, you will be, of course, guilt-tripped, blamed, discredited. Again, some scientists have published some things before, also including COVID, like the French professor who is famous for that, that were taken out of the official journal, whatever, of medicine, or the medical journals or publications have taken his article out during COVID, and now they actually all admit that he was right. So again, that sums up actually the mentality nowadays around science and research. And I've summed up that also back then with my little graph that has the vertical line. That vertical line is about the true progress of science as far as breakthrough that allows a huge step forward, new technology or new knowledge or field of knowledge. And then the horizontal bars that are about expanding the knowledge around that level of discovery or breakthrough. And unfortunately, what's happening now is exactly that most scientists, or the science in general, with that narrow-minded way of looking at things, as far as also thinking that they know so much, they hinder themselves to have new, real major breakthrough forward, to make one major step forward up that vertical line. What they do is that they just keep extending the knowledge a bit further and further and further at the same level, kind of. And as much as the technology has evolved, now it's actually a shift in mindset that will allow some serious next breakthrough. Of course, they come up with new words, also from new mathematical models and theoretical physics and all this, but that's the point again. They try to match things. Unfortunately, the brain is not enough open, the mind is not enough open to different concepts. So the latest thing, of course, has been to use the word quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and later again they like to talk about quantum entanglement, which in one way sounds very advanced and pretty cool, and they talk about quantum computers now, but it's still the same way to operate, which is that they kind of observe only with the eyes of the machines, then they only try to reproduce what nature is doing, and they do it the typical human way at that level, which is the gross level. So everything is done in a gross way, and of course it just gives gross results which are not working so well, with a lot of mistakes, a lot of things not working well that they try to fix and repair again, as I explained before, and then it's the same mentality. But they don't actually try to understand properly from within how nature works, how things work together. And this one can figure actually through meditation. As we have said before, Buddha was probably the greatest scientist of all time, because from introspection through meditation he had figured how everything works together, how everything happened, the source of everything, the whys, and how everything made sense. But also there's not so many words to explain sometimes at a certain level, because it's something that has to be experienced from within and not described with words or graphs or whatever, models. And now I see some things that start to mention about the subtle genetic link between intelligence and mental health, yes, and spatial grammar in DNA. Again, yes, scientists in general, they can only study and draw conclusions from things that they can see ultimately. Even if they don't see with their bare eyes, they just create machines that try to measure and see things for them and then render them in different ways. But there's still the same level of mindset to try to analyze and interpret those results. So it doesn't help to go further. Just as it is said and known that even the matter at the end, ultimately as the space, is mostly empty, still most of the understanding will come when people, humans, will be able to experience what is unseen, what is unmeasurable by technology. They might have the cool newest telescope in the space to look so supposedly far out there, or the best microscope to go in very details into matter, and they still don't know actually what really matter is made of at the end and how it actually really works or originates mostly, to those colliders, right, like in the Alps, to study things at the speed of light, and how matter interact with each other when they collide and everything. But at the end, you see, they can still see that it's a lot of things that are not seen, and although it's all about energy interacting and influencing each other, but at the end it comes back to some basic binary coding actually, and that's the world of the chaos order, because of duality, because of two polarities always. And back to genetics, as much as it looks like those combination of double helix coding, or like always two things, plus and minus, interacting with each other, A and B in the coding, like they put in computers now, at the end there is something beyond that. And it's pretty amazing that actually you can create so so much variety from binary coding in the world, but it's just about frequencies of energy. And still, as much as, again, people can, yes, measure frequency, it's not something that's palpable, that you cannot touch that, right? The energy waves. But if you go very deep in the meditation, you actually can become aware of that. And that's how actually, again, some very advanced monks, meditators, can affect the energy field around them, within them, and can affect matter, and basically change things in a way that scientists can only dream about, but they won't be able to understand, because you have to reach a point where it's not anything tangible. It's about the mastery of energy field, in a sense of intangible and invisible energy waves. Even though, again, science thinks that it knows with electromagnetism, and they use it, and radio waves and all of that, but still, Nikola Tesla, of course, had mentioned in one of his most famous quotes, but still, there is a point where you have to yourself be very, very aware and vibrate that to understand that, and not using any machine or whatever technology or manipulation to do something about it. So again, and it's very rational, as I mentioned before. If scientists use about 20-25% of the brain, then it's only a quarter of what they can do, or the capacities. Then you only get also like very mediocre results. It's the same like marks for an exam, right? You can have 100% of the marks at the test, or you can have only 25% of the mark, and 25% is not much. It's mostly wrong. It's easy to put it in a very rational way for scientists to understand. If you're going to use more than 50% of your brain capacities, which implies a lot of different concept and dimension and understanding of life and existence and the universe and matter, more than 50% means that you will do more good than bad. Under 50% you do more bad than good, more wrong than correct. That's just how it works. It's just like marks. So we are very, very far from, for most humans and the so-called scientific community, to understand properly how things work around. But again, one guy back then, 2,500 years ago, only through meditation, sitting down, going within properly with deep concentration, had figured what matter is about, what the core of the matter, and how it works, and how it's created, and why. So obviously science is very, very far from that, and only the day, and Einstein, of course, has mentioned his quote on that too, right? That if there is one religion that could solve a lot of problems in science nowadays, it would be Buddhism. But again, he was Einstein, but he wasn't a meditator, so that's exactly where the lack is, unfortunately. So only when we get people who can combine that, and that's what I've had with scientific background, but I've had the open-mindedness to only welcome what I could see through introspection and meditation, and only relate to what I had learned in my scientific studies, but not try to impose any scientific knowledge onto what was happening. Then that helped me a lot. But it has to go this way and not the other way exactly, like as most scientists do, which is to impose and force their very limited knowledge onto the natural phenomena. And because still most of the interesting knowledge that will help a lot to understand many things, or most of it, is still in the unseen, in the unknown. Just like we talk about the frequencies again. Frequencies can be all ranging all over the place, all over the scale, but humans are sensitive to only a very small part of frequencies, right? Which they call sound, colors, everything. So only when the mind will be open enough and people will manage to go within, then will they be able to understand better and not wasting so many natural resources to build so much technology and machines which only give a very approximate or very limited result to understand things, when all the answers are within ourselves, because we are part of it. Of course, we are part of the universe. We are basically made of natural elements, exactly because of some energy gathering at some point, a force of energy that gathers so much that it becomes matter. But it could be so simple in one way, and we would avoid so much wasting time and resources if these people could develop some real skills, intelligent skills, the real intelligence, which is to go in introspection mode and deep down in concentration, and then you can see all of this for what it is, exactly, experiencing it within, instead of trying to be like a young kid at school and trying to create machines and make experiments in a very clumsy way to try to understand things from the outside.